I texted the family, "Tomorrow's my son's birthday. Hope you can come." Mom replied, "We already have plans with your sister." Dad added, "He's too young to even remember." I just wrote, "Got it." The next evening, the photos from the party went viral. Their phones didn't stop ringing for days. "Don't act like you're some victim, John," my sister shouted, slamming her glass on the counter. Her voice cracked through the air like a whip. Mom was standing behind her, eyes narrowed, arms folded. Dad sat quietly, pretending to scroll through his phone, his way of avoiding guilt. I had walked in uninvited, holding my son's forgotten birthday cake. The air smelled of roast chicken and hypocrisy. "You didn't even show up for his birthday," I said softly. Mom scoffed. "We had plans with your sister's family. You can't expect us to drop everything for a child who won't even remember." My hands tightened around the box. "He remembers who didn't come," I whispered. Dad muttered without looking up. "You always make things dramatic. You think money fixes everything?" I looked at him and said quietly, "I learned that from you." Silence. Then my sister smirked. "You only help so people owe you." The room fell colder, and before I could answer, Mom stepped forward and hissed, "You think you're better than us just because you paid a few bills?" I stared at her, at all of them, and said nothing. That silence hurt them more than words ever could, because they knew I had paid more than bills. I had paid for their comfort, for their peace. Then my sister said the line that started everything. "Maybe if you weren't such a disappointment, Dad wouldn't have left you out of the will." My name's John Hale, 27, born into a house that taught me to earn love like wages. I was the quiet one, the fixer, the one who always came through when things went wrong. When Dad's business tanked, I worked double shifts to keep the mortgage afloat. When my sister Mara got engaged, I paid the deposit for her wedding venue because Dad's account was tied up. When Mom fell sick, I covered her hospital bills. No one said thank you. They just sent me receipts. I don't shout. Never have. I learned early that silence doesn't make people respect you. It just makes them believe you'll never fight back. So I stopped expecting fairness. I watched. I waited. And over the years, I collected more than just proof of betrayal. I collected understanding. That night, standing in their kitchen, hearing about the will I was left out of, I realized something. They weren't cruel because they hated me. They were cruel because they thought I'd never stop helping. But they were wrong. So wrong. Family members introduced. Mara Hale, 29, sharp-tongued, proud, always center stage. She wanted everything shiny, quick, and loud. Her husband, Ethan, just nodded along, the permanent accessory to her show. Linda Hale, my mother, once gentle, now bitter and defensive. She used guilt like armor. Every time I tried to talk about fairness, she'd say, "After all I've done for you." As if love was a receipt. Richard Hale, at my father, strict, quiet, successful once upon a time. He believed strength meant silence. Maybe that's where I learned it. He didn't hit. He humiliated. A sigh, a disappointed glance, a reminder of what I owed them. They were a team, not of love, but of convenience. They fed each other's lies, backed each other's guilt, but beneath the surface, something else simmered. When Mara mentioned the will, Mom's expression faltered. Just for a second, Dad cleared his throat too quickly. Something about that moment told me. They weren't just greedy. They were hiding something. I asked calmly, "So I'm not in the will?" Mom sighed. "It's not about that. Your father just thought Mara would handle things better. You've always been generous to a fault." I laughed once quietly. "Generous to your fault." Dad glared. "Watch your tone." I did. For 27 years, Mara rolled her eyes. "Don't make this ugly, John. We all know you'd waste it anyway." My jaw locked. I remembered wiring her thousands when her husband's business collapsed. "Funny," I said. "Did I waste it when I paid for your down payment? Or when I fixed Dad's tax mess?" Her face drained of color. Mom looked away. Dad stood up. That's enough. Is it? I asked, because I think we're finally getting somewhere. Then Ethan, quiet, nervous Ethan, spoke up for the first time. Maybe he should know, he said softly. The room froze. Mom's eyes widened. Ethan, don't... But it was too late. Whatever secret they were keeping, it was about to crawl into the light. Ethan took a breath. John, the money you've been sending, for Mom's hospital, for Mara's house, it wasn't all used how you think. I stared at him. Mom stammered. Don't listen to him. But Ethan continued, trembling. They moved some of it, to cover Richard's debt, the business. They didn't want you to know. I turned slowly toward my father. You used my money to hide your bankruptcy? Dad's voice cracked. It was temporary. I was going to pay it back. Mara jumped in, shouting, He did it for the family. I said quietly, No, he did it to keep his pride. Mom snapped, Stop acting like a martyr. You think you're perfect? You're just angry we didn't praise you. I took a step forward, calm, steady. You want to talk about praise? Fine. Let's talk about truth. They all fell silent, because they could see it in my eyes. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was done being quiet. 3 years ago, I stood outside that same house in the rain, holding an eviction notice meant for them. Dad's company had failed. Mom was sick. Mara was pregnant. I worked 16-hour days, sold my car, slept on my friend's couch. Every cent went to them. When I brought groceries, Dad said, You shouldn't have wasted your paycheck. When I covered the bills, Mom said, That's what sons do. No one asked where I lived, how I ate, or if I was okay. They never knew I went to bed hungry. I told myself it didn't matter. That family was worth it. But as the rain soaked my clothes and I handed Dad that last envelope, he said, Maybe next time, try harder. Real men don't need to struggle. That was the night I learned love without respect is just dependency dressed as care. And that night replayed now, standing before them. Same house, same silence, different me. I took out my phone and tapped the screen. On the table appeared copies of bank statements, transfers, and one shocking document, the revised will. Dad's signature was on it. But so was mine. Mara froze. What is that? I looked at her. A forgery. You needed my consent to move the house into your name, so you forged it. Mom gasped. That's not true. I slid the document closer. Your handwriting, Mom. You even used my old address. The color drained from her face. Dad whispered, John, please. But I didn't flinch. I had known for months. I'd just been waiting for them to prove who they really were. And now they had. I reported it last week, I said softly. Bank fraud, forgery, you'll get the call soon. Mara's voice cracked. You wouldn't do that to family. I met her eyes. You already did. The kitchen erupted. Mom cried, Dad shouted, Mara cursed. All at once, chaos clawing at every corner. I stood in the center, strangely calm. You think you're better than us? Dad yelled. No, I said. Just done being worse, Mara sobbed. You can't destroy your own family over money. I looked at her, eyes steady. You destroyed it over greed. Silence again. Heavy, broken. Mom whispered, John, please, we're sorry. Her voice cracked on the word sorry, like it was foreign to her tongue. I took a breath. I gave you all my silence. Tonight, I give you the truth. And with that, I walked out, not slamming the door, not shouting, just leaving them to sit in what they'd built. Behind me, the house that once echoed with my sacrifices fell completely quiet. I drove home in silence. My son, Liam, was asleep in the back seat, his head leaning against the window. The night air felt clean for the first time in years. The next morning, the calls began. Numbers I didn't answer. Texts came in. We can fix this. Let's talk. We didn't mean it. But forgiveness isn't owed. It's earned. And they'd never even tried. A week later, my sister's social accounts vanished. Dad's business shut down. Mom's lawyer called, quietly begging for a settlement. I didn't feel joy, just peace. A kind of peace that comes when you finally stop bleeding for people who never cared if you lived or not. I wasn't angry anymore. Just done. Months passed. Liam turned 7. He laughed again, louder than before. We baked his cake together, just the two of us. One afternoon, a letter arrived. From Mom. It wasn't an apology, not really, more of a confession. She wrote, "We thought, if we kept you down, you'd never leave. You were the one holding us together." I folded the letter, placed it in a drawer. Some wounds don't need closure, just distance. I stepped outside, looked at my small rented porch, the sky wide and endless above. And for the first time, I didn't feel small. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their version of love. I finally understood that sometimes, walking away is the loudest thing silence can say. For the first time, I don't carry their weight anymore. Family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the people who show up when no one else does. I kept quiet for years because I thought peace meant silence, but now I know peace means truth. If you were in my place, would you forgive or walk away forever? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters. Subscribe for more stories that speak the truth we're all too afraid to say, like if you've ever been the quiet one and finally decided not to be.